Hi, I'm Captain Steve Chaconis, and this is the National Bass Fishing Show. You've heard about the Ned Rig, and obviously for good reason. It catches fish, and it's the latest, greatest. You've got companies making special plastics, special jig heads. We're going to talk about that, but I got to take you back to the mid-'60s. So here I was fishing in Montgomery, Alabama, just a stone's throw from the Mann's bait company, and they had a bait called the Stingray Grub. Okay, now let's fast forward about 30 years, because I was out fishing on the Potomac River and I was catching my grubs. You know, just a plain old grub, curl-tail grub. That thing was great, and then the fish started biting the tails off. So I'd put a new grub on. They'd bite the tail off again, put a new grub on until I ran out of grubs, and all I had left was something like this. That's all I had. And I was throwing that, and I kept catching the fish. Well, eventually those were gone. So I said, what do I have that's close to that? I dug into the bottom of my tackle box because my dad had been fishing with me and he left a few of these baits there. I think he did it on purpose, but he left a few baits called the Stingray Grub, and I started catching fish with it. It was amazing because I just threw this thing. It doesn't look like much, and a lot of guys don't really want to throw it. It's a Mann's Stingray Grub, flat tail grub, and I put it on a 1/4 ounce ball head jig, okay? Well, now fast forward again, almost another 30 years, and now we're talking about the Ned Rig. Well, what this is, the Stingray Grub, that was our Ned Rig. The same type of thing. Notice any similarities? Okay, here's the Ned Rig. Here's the Stingray Grub. Okay, it's got a tail on it. That's okay, but it's going to be fished about the same way. The key to this bait is very, very simple. It's how you fish it. You can fish it a whole lot of different ways, and now because of the Z-Man plastics, you can just let it sit on the bottom. When you sit on the bottom, it sits like this, and you shake it, and it'll get the fish to bite it. But where it's very effective is on the fall, and that's where a lot of guys don't realize. But we did with the Stingray Grub. That's what we used to do with the Stingray Grub. We would lift it and semi-slack down. So we didn't want the bait to go up and down. We wanted the bait to kind of glide towards and fall. So we'd lift it up, kind of slack line it down, kind of fall like that. Lift it up, let it kind of slide back down. The bait would glide. These baits will glide too. These baits will glide too if you fish it that way. But this is a super way to do it. Now, here's the other thing. We've gone finesse fishing. We go to 10-pound braid, maybe 6-pound fluorocarbon. We throw it out there. We want it to get to the bottom. We want the fish to see this thing falling real fast. Well, not so fast with a Stingray Grub, or really with a Ned Rig. I use line to help me slow the fall of the bait. The bigger the diameter, we've talked about this in other videos, the slower the bait will fall. So I'll tie this to 10 or even 12-pound test monofilament. Actually, I like to use Gamma Copoly. Gamma Copoly is super, super strong. If I'm not fishing maybe more than about 10 feet deep, I'll use Gamma Copoly. But if I want the bait to fall a little bit faster, I'm going to go to fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon falls faster. It's better in current. It's better in wind. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw it on spinning gear, obviously. I'm going to tie it to like a 1/4 ounce ball head jig. Those are, just your simple ball head jig. That's about as simple as I can get. If I need to, I'll put a little bit of super glue on there, some kind of glue to hold it in place. You can use these special hooks if you want, and they're great. They're mushroom heads, really no big advantage. But the better baits now, or better hooks, come with a bait keeper. It keeps it on. You don't need the super glue. What I've done too, here's one of my little tricks, and nobody around, I'm going to show this to you. So I pour a lot of my own jig heads. I pour a lot of my ball head jigs too. And what I do is I cut the bottom off. I cut it. After I pour that head, I take some cutters and I cut the bottom part of the ball off. And what that does is allows this bait to really glide. And now this is a 1/4 ounce head. It's an 1/8 ounce head. If I want a bigger one, I can go to, a bigger ball head if I want, and then cut the bottom of it off. But it slides down. It also skips really, really well. So that's one of my big secrets that I've been using. As far as the plastic goes, I want to show you guys something. This is a bait. It's a soft plastic jerk bait. And this bait was around in the 1990s. That's right. It was made by a company called Snapback. I think this bait was around. We couldn't figure out how to use it. We didn't know what the best application was for it. But these are like an antique bait. Terminator made these things. My buddy Alan McGuckin sent these out to us many, many years ago, and we just couldn't figure out the application. But now the application is the Ned Rig. Now I'm going to show you another thing I love to do with a Ned Rig. Like to take a little finesse jig, and then I'll put it as a trailer. But the best thing is, now sometimes guys are having a hard time. By the way, these are 3-inch avocado. It's a great color. It's kind of like a green. It's its own color, really, avocado. Okay, love that color, 3-inch. If you can't find it, there are a couple places that you can go. I know a guy who's actually making some of these. He calls it I think he calls it the Stingray Grub, and he's with Mud Puppy Custom Baits in Virginia. Mud Puppy Custom Baits in Virginia. I'll put a phone number up there for you too. Or I like to pour a lot of my own baits. You watch any of my videos, I'm pouring a lot of my baits. Lurecraft has a Stingray Grub mold. Now, the advantage is I can control the colors now and the soft plastic. I can actually put floating plastic in this and get some of that effect where it's going to just sort of stand up for you on a lighter jig head. It's going to stand up, or it's going to fall even slower. It's going to be a little bit more buoyant. I also use these things on drop shot. So the way to fish it, very basic. Throw it out, on down, on tight line. You want that bait to kind of glide. You don't want to nose down. You want to kind of glide. And you can do that by keeping the line taut, using 10-pound test or 12-pound test. When you set the hook, it's going to be a reel and pull. You don't want to set the hook too hard because we're using smaller hooks. Remember that? We're using a smaller hook. It's not a giant hook, and it is an open hook. So you don't need to really set the hook really hard because these are thinner wire hooks and they'll penetrate. Good luck. Get out there, try some, buy some, make some, but enjoy the fishing. Tune in for more of these videos. If you like them, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.